I'm Beverly Tucker, and I am a forensic interviewer here at the Children's Advocacy Services of Greater St. Louis, and I've served in that capacity for about 21 years.
What is the process of a disclosure for a child?
Well, the process of disclosure is used in a variety of ways, and in one of those ways, it refers to a fairly large body of work of research that looks into some stages of the way that kids come to tell about their abuse experiences. But for my purposes, and for that of most forensic interviewers, we simply refer to it as just the way kids tell. And kids tell in so many different ways that as a forensic interviewer, I don't have any exact expectations of how kids should tell, but generally allow them to share their experience as they can. One of my mentors early in my career, Luzette Wood, gave me a great analogy for the process of disclosure. She likened it to those who approach jumping into a swimming pool. And you may have yourself been or seen those people who come to the pool, they drop their towels and they just dive in head first or feet first. That would be likened to a child who is ready to talk. And for some reason, right now is the moment, and you are the person, and I'm going to tell you what's been happening. Other kids are very tentative and hesitant, and they may come and maybe stick in their foot and kind of gauge the temperature of the water. And if it feels okay, they will gently maybe tell a little more, submerge a little deeper. And you can liken that to if they're talking to an adult who seems ready to hear, supportive and responsive, then maybe it's okay to tell them more about what happened. And then some kids, if you see that person who's on the pool deck and someone comes up behind them and shoves them in before they're ready, those would be those kids who, when you may ask if something is happening to them, they say no, absolutely not, and they deny. In fact, those kids will jump out of the pool and run for inside, run for cover. So if you kind of think of it as a person getting into a pool, it kind of helps you see that kids don't approach telling the same way.
Why do you think a child would not tell if they are experiencing abuse?
There can be so many reasons why kids don't tell. And just to name a few, and I'm sure I'm not going to remember or know all of them, but some kids, particularly when abuse starts when they're very young, they don't even know that what is happening is wrong. They think this is normal because it's their normal. And it may not be until they get exposed to a broader community or they start school or they get a safe touch kind of instruction and a prevention course at school that they realize that, wait a minute, they said this isn't supposed to be happening, but it's happening to me, and maybe I should tell somebody. Some kids don't tell when they're clear in their own hearts and mind that what they're experiencing is not okay. They don't tell because they may be afraid. They may feel ashamed. And it's just really interesting to me how a victim carries shame and guilt for something that is not their fault. But as an adult, most of us can appreciate kids think that a lot of things are their fault when it really isn't. And so this is no different. If something bad is happening and some tension or discomfort, it must be something that I'm doing, it must be me. And so kids don't tell because they believe they're going to be in trouble if a grown-up finds out. And also embarrassment is such a big factor for many of the kids that I talk to. Even though they want to tell, it's embarrassing to share details of such experiences. Just imagine being asked to stand in front of a group of people and share an intimate sexual experience with perhaps a partner with whom you wanted to have that experience with, and how awkward and uncomfortable that would be. Imagine that for a child who may not even have the language to even put into words what they have experienced. And then we can't underestimate fear of being in trouble from the person who's harming them, who may have told them, if you tell, some bad things could happen, perhaps to the child themselves or to others that they love. And kids are smart enough to know that if the person harming them is a caregiver or a breadwinner, that this could result in hardship for their families. And they may be willing to just forego their own safety and sacrifice themselves and remain silent so that their family can keep a roof over their head or keep their financial obligations met. And then the other thing I just want to mention briefly is that sometimes kids love their abuser. It's reasonable to appreciate that 90% of abuse occurs to children by someone they like, live with, or love. So often it's not a stranger, and they don't want a bad consequence. They don't want this person to go to jail. They don't want this person to perhaps be expelled from the home. They just want the abuse to stop. And so there can be so many reasons why kids don't tell. And even when they do try to tell, if the adult isn't present and supportive, they don't continue to tell.
How should we as adults respond to a child who is disclosing abuse to us?
Often I have this conversation with other professionals for whom the directions may differ. But if you are a parent, a caregiver, a concerned neighbor, an auntie, an uncle, or any other adult in that child's life, and you have been given the gift of trust from a child to tell you, I would encourage you to, first of all, just really fight within yourself to remain calm. And I know that's not an easy task to do. When you hear something horrible, we all kind of fly up in arms, but you have to wrestle within yourself to stay calm, keep your body and your face calm, lean in, listen, just allow kids to share with you what they're able to share and what they want to share. Let them know that you're there, you hear them, and you want to help them. Thank them for trusting you. Oftentimes, parents and concerned adults don't know what to do with that information. You don't have to make any promises. You don't have to fix everything for the child. Just let them know you hear them and that you thank them, you appreciate them trusting you and telling you. And then it's important to hotline that information. And I know that can be really difficult when it's a part of a system or a family or people with whom you have relationships, but it's not your job to investigate it. You don't have to go and talk to people and tell everyone and put any clues together. Just report it, because there are professionals out there for whom that is their expertise. Allow them to do that. And in so doing, you will greater ensure the child's safety, as well as ensure your own good night's sleep when you know that you've done right by that kid. So I would encourage you to stay calm, listen, and then report it.
Is there any other message that you think is so important for us to know and to understand when responding to child abuse?
If there's one thing I would share, I would say as adults, community partners, people in our neighborhoods, as adults, we really need to practice listening to kids, not necessarily about abuse experiences, but just empowering them, respecting them, valuing them by giving them our time and attention when they have something to say, even if it seems kind of unimportant or benign. Just listen. I think that kind of thing equips kids to expect that adults value them and that they are worthy of being heard. Whether they choose to tell you about an abuse experience or something of great importance to them or not, we still want kids to feel valued and to feel heard. I always encourage investigators and frontline people, responders, that even if a child does not disclose something to you, and when it may be obvious something is going on, it's okay. It's okay to respect that kid's choice to tell you or not to tell you, because many times abused kids have not had a sense of being respected, and they've not had a sense of being able to make a choice. So if they choose that today is not the day, or you're not the person to share their experience with, respect it, value it, and still give them your time and your presence. And perhaps that will empower them to trust the next professional or the next adult. So it's all a part of a process. And sometimes we're just planting seeds and watering seeds and not necessarily seeing the outcome. And that's okay. That's okay.